We are It's Just a Hill, a cycling club that promotes inclusion, judgment-free, with no gatekeepers. Focused on creating content from behind the handlebars to in the studio, It's Just a Hill is producing videos and podcasts to spread the message that cycling is for everyone. We are focused on reminding everyone that riding your bike can help you overcome any obstacle, because after all, it's just a hill. Hello and welcome to another episode of the It's Just a Hill podcast. I am John Stenning and I am sitting here with Jake Saunders. Hi, Jake.
Hey, John. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, man.
Thank you for coming. We just rode our bikes.
Yep.
It is a Sunday afternoon, not to timestamp the podcast too much because sometimes, that takes people out of it. But yeah, I'd like to introduce you to the audience. Maybe like just in a broad scheme of things. So if you don't mind, you want to just like tell us a little bit about yourself, like what you do for work, and then we can get into like cycling.
Yeah.
More specific stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for having me.
Hell yeah. Thanks for coming.
First podcast I've ever done.
Oh yeah. Huge. Right.
I will say there's a little bit of an added pressure after listening to some of your other podcasts, but, yeah, thanks for having me. I guess to give an overview of who I am. So I'm originally from Wisconsin. I'm not a New Englander. I'm from Wisconsin originally. Moved out to Rhode Island 7 years ago.
Yep.
I met my wife after we graduated from college. Met her on Tinder. Nice. We ended up moving out here to Rhode Island. Yep. And I work at Brown. I'm a fundraiser at Brown. I guess my long story short, how I got into cycling. Mm-hmm. And more or less, I come from a background of triathlon. Right. So I grew up playing competitive hockey
cool.
all through, youth.
Must be big in Wisconsin.
Huge, yeah. Wisconsin, Minnesota, super competitive. There's, I skates on when I was 4 years old,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, super competitive. People take it really serious. Yep. So I played competitively, then played like in bar leagues and things like that through college. And then there was a kid that I went to high school with who got into triathlon. He was like posting, this was like Facebook, your pictures, and it was really big time. Yep. And I was like, dude, that looks so sick. And at the time when I was in college, I really into weightlifting, lifting heavy weights. I was like 205 pounds. So I was a big guy. Yep. And I was like, dude, that looks so sick. I want to try to do a triathlon someday. Yep. So I bought a road bike for like $300. Wow. Like it was like a commuter bike that you would see like on a college campus.
Oh, sure.
With the fenders and everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, whatever. I was like, I have it. And like I started training, didn't know how to, grew up on a lake, but didn't know how to swim laps, right? Yep. It's totally different. Like swimming to like a buoy or something is different than like doing laps in a pool. Yeah. So I did my first triathlon and I was like, holy crap, that was awesome. It was fun. Yeah. And then I just got really, really into it over time. And then my wife and I moved out here and I was just training more. I was getting faster. I was getting better. And then I started working with a coach back in 2016. Okay. And he was like, what are your goals? What do you want to do? And I was getting pretty fast, through the amateur field and winning the races and things like that. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I kind of want to see if I could earn my professional license, maybe, race among the best guys just to see how good I can get. I was working full time still, married, working, 40 hours a week. I was training 20, 25 hours a week. Wow. Earned my professional license. In 2018, I raced as a professional in 2019.
Do you have to qualify in certain races to do that?
Yeah. Yep. So there's a few different ways that USA Triathlon does it, but you can, in a short sense, you can win the amateur race with a professional field, or you get these points that you can accumulate kind of on an average score.
Kind of similar to a cycling license.
Yes. Yeah.
That you move up in categories.
Yes, kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you can choose whether or not to take your license. And so at the end of 2017, I earned it. Or 2018, and I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm just going to go for it, because once you get a license, it's good for 3 years. I was like, I'm going to go all in for 3 years. Yeah. Just see how fast I can get. No, I'm not going to win these races, because there's guys that do this full time. They don't work
40 hours a week.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Right.
So I trained my ass off 2018, 2019, raced a professional, completely different racing setup in terms of what the amateur race is like and what the professional race is like. Yeah. Amateur race is pure time trial. You're just doing your best, pacing yourself. Yep. Versus when you're a professional, you're racing against guys. You got to keep up with them. It's just totally different. Yep. And I was getting my ass kicked. In the professional field, I would come in 19th, 17th place. Yep.
How big is the field?
1,000, 2,000 people.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, the thing in triathlon, there's not a lot of money. So it's like you finish outside the top 10, you get zero, $0.
Right. And you're putting money into it, not only the training time, but.
Yeah. And I mean, traveling to Canada, like
and then
Louisville,
the entry fee.
California. Yeah. Everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So long story short is raced as a pro, learned a lot of stuff, got faster in 2019. All of a sudden 2020 came, COVID came.
Yeah.
And then I just honestly, man, after I was training, 4 years, 5 years, 20, 25 hours a week, I woke up one day and I was like supposed to go swim. I was like, I don't want to do this today.
Yeah.
Like rolled over to my wife. I was like, hey, it's like 5:30 in the morning. I was like, hey, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do triathlon anymore.
You just felt it.
Yeah. And she's like, can we talk about this later? And I was just like, I had like an
early in the
awakening.
morning.
Yeah. I was like, I just had like a moment. I was like, I just want to ride my bike.
Yeah.
And I've always just been like, out of triathlon, always look forward the most to riding my bike, like on the weekends, a long ride or doing intervals, whatever it was. I was like, man, I just love riding my bike. Swimming was just like a labor of like, it was part of doing it, part of the triathlon. Running I enjoyed, but I was always really injury prone as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I was always dealing with something, and like cycling was just like, loved it.
Yeah.
So anyways, bring this full circle.
No, this is about you. This is all about
bring
you.
This full circle is like early 2020. I like had like my awakening. Sold my TT bike like a week after. I was like, I'm done. Sold it. Got some money. Bought my new road bike, and then just started riding. And then it was pandemic, so there was no races. And then just training for road racing and things like that. And then that's what I've been doing ever since. So that's kind of how it morphed, I guess, into what I do now.
Now, were you like before you got into sort of like the amateur circuit of triathlons? Did you sort of feel like did the bike or did running or did swimming like call to you more before you got into it, or?
So I grew up like hockey and everything like that, but I grew up riding bikes a ton.
Gotcha.
BMX bikes, like my some of my best friends we all lived kind of in the same, so really rural Wisconsin, but we all lived within a couple miles of each other.
Gotcha.
And like growing up, it's like you like lived like with your house, but then usually your parents had like a bunch of land just because it's so like rural. We would build like these jumps and BMX tracks, and like we would spend like all summer doing that. And I grew up just riding bikes. We would ride to school, like we would ride everywhere. But I always, like I said, I always just gravitated toward riding my bike. Like I look forward to it the most, like out of everything. And like I said, it was just an easy decision once I realized I didn't want to do triathlon anymore.
Right. And so what was the first like cycling specific race that you did?
So outside of Zwift, No, I'm
joking. We can talk about Zwift too.
Yeah, we will. Yeah. So the first one, I actually did a road race in 2017 when I was doing triathlon.
Just bike specific.
Yes. It was a road race up in Monson, Massachusetts. And I did it with a buddy of mine who was also a triathlete. He's like, oh, do you want to do it just for fun? I was like, yeah. So that was like the first one I did, but I don't really consider it a race. I had like no idea what I was doing. Gotcha. At the time I was like, we're triathletes. Like we have really poor handling skills. Like, no, don't ride around us, So we pretty much just rode together, and then it was kind of uneventful. But the first race I did was this past summer in 2020, Nitty Grit, Sunshine Crit.
Sunshine Crit,
that was the first actual race that I did. Ended up crashing at that race, believe it or not. So I was off the front. It was a Cat 4-5 race. So I was off the front for 20 minutes, 9 laps or something like that. And then they're like, 1 lap to go. And I was like, oh shit, 1 lap. Hell yeah. So I was like, all right, I'm going to kick into overdrive now. And I just took a horrible line on the second left turn at that course. And my rear wheel skidded out and I ended up crashing off the front solo. People are like, oh, I'm going to do a crit. I'm scared around other people and rubbing elbows or whatever. And they're like, oh, crash just happened. Well, I crashed by myself.
Yeah, you were out front.
Yeah, no one was with me.
People were not around you.
So anyways, crashed. And then, and then I had to come back from that. I had a concussion from that. I was kind of banged up just all over. But then what I did, so then I was like, all right, I need to start riding in groups. I need to get more comfortable being around people. So I started going to the Smackdown rides up in Providence and doing those. I started doing group rides. And then I did the Green Mountain stage race. That was actually those were the first set of races that I did. And that was in September. So I did that, and that was a great experience.
That's
just
in Vermont.
Learning.
How many? 3 or 4 stages?
It's 4. There's a time trial, then a circuit race, and then the Queen stage, which is the climbing mountain stage, and then the criterium is on Monday. So it's 4 stages. And going to that, I was like, for all of this too, I was just like, I want to get experience racing. It's just totally different. The dynamics of you got to stay with the group, the surging, you got to read the pack, people going off the front. It's just, there's a lot more going on than it's triathlon where you're like, all right, I'm going to go my speed the entire time. Like you gotta follow wheels, things like that. So it was really the first time I was like actually racing, and it was a ton of fun. Had a great time. Ended up winning 3 of the 4 stages at the race. Yeah. Unfortunately, the second stage I flatted. And like, so like, of course, okay, this is like funny, but you know, like in the tour, like if the guy, so I won the TT the first day. Yep. So they give you the yellow jersey. Oh, sure,
the leader's jersey. Yes.
So I had the leader's jersey, and like, you know, it's like funny, like in the tour, like if Chris Froome's wearing the yellow jersey and he flats, like the peloton waits up and they're like, all right, we're going to wait for the guy with the yellow jersey.
But no, it's probably the opposite.
Yeah. So that's what happened. I wasn't expecting them to like slow down. I was like, this is a Cat 4-5 field. I'm not expecting them to slow down. Right. But yeah, they just like went, and I was like, whatever. So then I like did like a 40-minute TT, like to try to like minimize the gap. Sure. And just try to minimize the time. But yeah, so I you know, flatted on that stage, and then I ended up winning the 3rd stage, which is the mountain stage, which is awesome. Yeah. Highly recommend doing that race just for the app. You feel like you're in a professional race going up the last stage. It's so there's chalk on the road. There's fans,
spectators.
It was sick, dude.
Oh wow!
You feel like you're in like the tour, like mountain stage. It was sick. Yeah. And then I won the criterium on the Monday as well. Yeah. And to kind of bring this a little bit back is I met Cal. Yes. So I met Cal, and I was like, hey. Or he's like, hey, I'm from Rhode Island too. He's like, you were at the Nitty Grit. And I was like, yes. I was like, I was. And I met him, and he was wearing your It's Just a Hill jersey. And I was like, I joined that club on Strava. And I was like, I've been meaning to come down for a group ride. He's like, you should. And we talked a little bit through the race and stuff like that. So that's how I met him. And then he introduced me to you at Jamestown. Yes, exactly. So that's how we're coming back here.
Yeah, that's full circle.
So, and then to bring it back again, so that's the first set of races I did. Really loved it, just to learn, you know, the dynamics of a race, learn how to, you know, pace and do all these different things. Riding in a group with like 50 people. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. And then I did Jamestown as well, which was in October. Yeah. And that was fun too. Like no plans or anything like that. Yeah. You know, technically I think I joined the Bikeworks team like a couple weeks after. Oh, and they're all like, all right, team tactics going into this. And I was like, the thing about team tactics with like, especially like Cat 4-5 racing, like everybody's out there, they want to win. Nobody's like, we're going to slow the field up.
Yeah, it's
we're
like it's a domestique.
I was like, everybody's racing for themselves.
Everyone wants to win.
Exactly, yeah. So like,
you're not taking it for the team.
Like, I'm not going to sign up pay $50 for a race and like sit up and be like, all right, team won, but I just spent $50 to come here and do 100 watts the whole time, you know?
Pull my guy to the line. Exactly. And then pull off.
Exactly. So when I remember this, because I remember Brian and Sean went off the front. They tried to do an attack or whatever.
Yes. And that's when the truck almost hit them. Yes. And Brian has some footage of that.
And I was like, wow. Yeah. I was like, these are open roads. Like, you know, this is sketchy. Right. But then I remember I don't know if you went off the front. I followed you.
I remember following you.
Okay, so maybe it was. I remember just me and you rolling off the front.
The way I remember,
you tell me.
And I also will say that like my heart rate was like through the roof, so I might be remembering this a little bit differently. But I remember, I remember Cal telling me about you that there was this local guy. His name's Jake, and he's like really strong. He's good to ride. Like you should ride with him. Essentially, is what he said. And so I knew you were doing that race, and what I remember is you went off the front. Okay. And Cal looked at me in the group and said, "Go get him." Okay. And so I went to go get you, and I stayed with you for a little bit, and we did a couple of rotations. Yes. And then I remember I was sitting behind your wheel, and I was like, maybe I can stay with him, but if I attempt to stay with him, I'm afraid that once I lose him, then the whole pack will go flying by me. Sure. So I eased up and and then, I mean, you stayed in front. Yeah. Well, see, I remember a little similar, but a little bit differently. Okay. I remember maybe I did roll off the front and you were with me, but then I remember taking some turns. Yeah. But I remember you taking like a very, maybe like in my head, it wasn't super long. Maybe it was like 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Yep. And I'm like, damn, this guy's pulling for a while. Yep. And it was like right into the base of that hill. That was also my first race. Okay. Yes. Yeah, so I didn't really know, you know? I was like, damn, this is a long pull. I was like, this is a nice free ride. Cause I remember we were going right up to that hill. Yes. I remember the hill well. And then like, I kind of like push it up the hill. Yep. And I was like, this guy's pulling me right up to this thing. And then I look back and you're like, go. Like, you're like giving me the nod. I was like, and then you get to a point where like I was over that, like it was like me over the hill, and then you were like kind of behind me. Yes. And then I looked back and the pack was back there, and I was like, fuck. I know. I wish we had just stayed together. I was like, damn it. I was like, now I got to keep going, you know? And you're like already like, you know, beating 180 beats per minute. I'm like, shit. Right. So then I was like, I'm just going to go.
and like maybe they'll catch me. If they don't, I'm gonna get a good effort in.
Right.
And I kept looking back and like nothing was happening, and I was like, oh my god, I was like, this sucks. I got like 10 miles to go solo here, and just like hammered all the way through, which was a lot of fun. I had to lead the Tesla.
Yes, the lead out car.
I was like honking through the town. I was like, this is crazy. Like hopefully no one pulls out and hits me right now.
Fun, right? Because they had this lead out car to like lead all like the group of 50 people, but essentially it turned into them leading you, and then we were just like in the a little bit removed.
That was fun. That was a fun race. I highly recommend doing that. Yeah. I heard story, and I know you and I had talked about this before. I think your dad did he do the original like series of races? Yeah, it was like twice as long, and it was
twice
like around
as long.
The island.
2 loops, I think, and like the route was a little bit different, but it was because the one that we did was like 19 miles.
Yes,
I think it used to be closer to 40.
Yeah.
And I want to say it actually maybe it went away for a little while.
Okay.
And then it came back.
Yes.
And like it was fun. I think I would do it again. It's also like close.
Yeah. That's what convenience too is like.
Right.
I mean, Jamestown, you can't not do it. Right. Yeah. It's just in your backyard. You know?
It's nice, and the roads are nice enough.
Yeah.
And
traffic wasn't horrible.
Right. Except for that one car that pulled out.
Yes.
And sure. And like it also was fun to race, because you ride, like these are people that I've ridden with before, not only the Chester Hill members, but then like, you mentioned Bikeworks, Bikeworks people and some other people that you've seen around that have just gone on more casual rides, but it's just a different vibe, a much different vibe. People are like sort of
on edge.
Hold your wheel, I remember this one guy, I thought he was yelling at me.
Okay.
And he said, he was like, haven't you ever held a wheel before? And I turned to him and I go, you fucking talking to me?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I'm not. I was like, oh, okay, sorry. Because your adrenaline is just so high.
Oh, yeah, you're like on pins and needles.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I remember Cal, like this was right, like you go down and then you take the right away, like right when you start the race. Yes. And I don't know if it was I don't know if it was Sean or somebody else. Yep. They like went on the outside of him, like close to the yellow line, and Cal's like, yellow line.
Oh,
and
really?
I'm like, like, oh God. I was like, this is getting serious now.
Right.
Like,
because Cal's done a good amount of racing.
Oh, yeah.
And so sort of like the information that I had gotten from him was like I watch like pro cycling. And you try to like garner some tactics or, whatever.
Yeah.
But Cal and I were talking about that a lot before, or our whole team was just like, sit in when you can, and like maybe we're going to attack, but like you really got to make sure you're in a good position for sort of that final sprint, because that final sprint was the same right that we took at the end, but we were turning back into like this Fort Getty
and it's
in
a
Jamestown.
little like 2 or 3% up kind of.
And I remember like crossing the finish line and then coming around the corner, and you were like just like chilling there. I was like, oh man, this guy's like off his bike. Damn.
So speaking of like the team, like talking tactics. So when I was racing Green Mountain with Cal, there was this guy who took the leader's jersey after I lost it on stage, the second stage, because I had flatted and I lost a bunch of time. Yeah. And like everybody was just out to get this guy, because this guy was like, okay, so we're in a Cat 4 or 5 field. A lot of new racers, people that are inexperienced, things like that. And this guy's barking around, telling people to pull. Like, I'm like, dude, like...
And they're not on his team.
No, he doesn't have any teammates. But he's like telling people, like, rotate, 10, 30-second pulls. And Cal and I are like, all right.
Yeah, right.
And then I remember, like, we were like, all of these... It was like this group of Cat 4 5 racers, like, trying to go against this guy. Because, he was such, like, kind of an asshole. And then I remember going up to the... And this is the third stage, the Queen stage, the last climb. And everybody's just like, they came up, they're like, beat him, please. And I was like, okay. I was like, no pressure or anything like that. Please. And then I like finished, and everybody's like, did you beat him? Did you beat him? I'm like, yeah. They're like, yes. Like, thank God.
Now, what was that like? Were there teams there, or was everyone sort of like by themselves?
Yeah. So there were, I would say there was a fair number of teams, especially from like Massachusetts. There's like the 545 Velo team. Yep. There's another team that's out of there as well, out of Massachusetts, like the Boston area. I can't think of their name. But yeah, I would say like there's definitely people that were on teams or people that like knew each other.
Had ridden together
Yes,
before.
Exactly. Right. So like I didn't know, I mean, I knew Cal just because he introduced himself to me, but like I didn't know anybody else in the 4 or 5 field. I was going in there solo. Right. But like, again, 4 or 5, like you can't, there's not like, no one's going to sacrifice their race. They paid $300 to do the stage race. I'm not going to like work my ass off for somebody to you know what I mean, to finish in 50th place. It's different. I can see like if you're in the P1-2 field, it's different, you know?
Right.
But there definitely is tactics, I would say, in terms of like, if someone is, someone's strong, like if Cal were to go off the front, I know he's pretty strong.
Yeah.
So like I would want to follow him. You know what I mean? So it's like, you kind of got to have like your peripheral blinders, not blinders, but like vision on, just be like, all right, that guy is strong based off his time at the TT yesterday. Like if he goes off the front, I want to follow him.
Right.
So you kind of got to be like in that mindset a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not often too that like you see these guys with like $10,000 bikes. They're usually not the fastest guys either. So if someone looks like a pro, they're like probably not the fastest guys are often the ones that are on like the $2,000, $3,000 bikes that like, they look fit, and those are the ones that you want to follow.
Yeah. Are you planning to do either of those races again this year, Green Mountain or Jamestown?
Yes, both of them for sure.
Yeah.
And then more road races throughout the summer as well.
Cool.
And then we're signed up for some gravel races.
Yeah, 1 week
too.
from this record, we're doing the Natchaug Epic. Which we talked about a little bit on the last episode of the podcast. That's out of Thompson, Connecticut. It's about 80 miles.
It's going to be, I think it's 84
miles.
It's like, what is it, like 6,000 feet of elevation?
Yeah, maybe.
Like
I think it's closer to 7. Yeah, 7. Somewhere between 6 and 7.
That's going to be a long, long day.
Yeah, it is.
I think the weather looks good.
Yep.
It's supposed to be like a high of like 45 or maybe 48, which is nice. In the morning, like I think our wave goes off at like 8 or something, 8:15.
Right.
Be like 40 degrees. So not a huge fluctuation, but the thing that makes me the most nervous is it's supposed to rain earlier in the weeks. And like I don't know if you watched the video of like the recap from when they did it last year.
Oh no, I haven't.
There's some gnarly mud like the mud like the ruts with the mud were like 6-7 inches, and I was like, dude, it's gonna be crazy if it rains the day before out there.
And it's been sort of a nasty winter too, with like permafrost and things melting. If we get a couple more days of rain, things are sort of starting to dry out now, but if we get some days of rain, it's gonna be nasty. I've ridden some of the course. Okay. Last year we missed out on the race.
Yep.
But like we saw that there was this like cool gravel route, so Brian and I went and just like did some of it.
Okay. What would you say? What's it
there's
like?
Some hard stuff. And like the climbs.
Okay.
Like especially compared to around here, it's just like more elevation per mile.
Sure.
Yep. So it's just like, but there's a lot, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's like beautiful, like cool, like farm country and stuff. But it seems like our wave is going to be like fiery, a little competitive.
I think it will be. And I think my plan and my goal again, like a lot of people we know are going to be there doing it.
Yeah.
It's going to be if we average 16 miles an hour, we're going to be out there for 5 hours.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's going to be a long day.
Yeah.
And I know that there's like 4 time sectors, but like, for me, man, I'm gonna go hard on those.
Yeah.
But I know if I go too hard, or if we all try to like pace each other around the rest of the course, the last 2 or 3 hours of that ride is gonna be if it's
some
nasty.
People are gonna
No, I'm not trying to kill myself.
No.
Out there, but it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun, and like that's always like fun to meet new people and hang out afterwards. That's what I've done a couple of like just gravel events, like fondos or whatever, and they always just seem to be a little bit more chill,
like relaxed.
Yeah, a little bit more relaxed. Like. And to me, that's like the fun part. Even though I say that now, but like the morning of, I'll be like way too competitive about it, and like we'll go after the segments, and it'll be fun.
Yeah,
a lot of people that we know.
Yeah,
hopefully we work together.
Yeah, I think we should. It'd be stupid for us not to.
Right.
It's kind of, I'm just going to go back for a sec here. When you wake up in the morning and you go out there and you're going to be competitive. It's like a group ride, right?
Yeah.
Where people are like, all right, we're going to stick together today.
Yeah, right. And then all of a sudden people get a little saucy.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sometimes your adrenaline or your testosterone, whatever, gets the best of you, And
I think a lot of times too, when I'm speaking of group rides that are, like, hey, we're going to stick together, we can do it, whatever. A lot of times it's like someone pushes a little bit off the front.
Yeah.
And then you're like on their wheel, you're sitting second wheel and you're going like 25. You're like, you're feeling smooth.
Right.
And then it's your turn to pull. You're like, hell yeah, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah.
And before you know it, it's like everything's all
split up.
It's all messed up.
But sure.
Yeah, you get into those modes where like you feel like you're in, you're doing Milan San Remo and you're doing 30 miles an hour.
Right.
But you're in Narragansett on Post Road
doing group
like,
ride. Yeah. Casual Sunday group ride.
Yeah.
Like that, like all best intentions.
Yeah.
But things change.
Yeah,
There's also like a bunch of different people.
Yeah.
Different people are feeling differently where their fitness is at, especially this time of year, I feel.
Yeah.
Some people really ramp down their riding in the winter. Some people just ride inside. You ride on Zwift a lot.
I do.
It's like a time thing for you, right? It's like nice and convenient for you to hop on your bike.
Yeah. So I have a 14-month-old son.
Yep.
So he was born last January, and that's when like things really changed. So before I was married, my wife has always been so supportive of me, training, and like she knew that I was in love with triathlon and pushing myself and like being the best I could be. And like, you know, on the weekends, man, I would wake up at 5, swim, bike for 5 hours, and then go for an hour run. You know, I would be done until 3 p.m., you know? And she was like totally okay with it. You know, we're going all over the country and like doing these races.
Your wife would travel with you.
Yeah, she was, I mean, cool. She's using up her vacation time to do this. Like she sacrificed so much for me and my passion. That like when I was like, you know, she got pregnant and I was like, all right, things are going to change, you know, like when you become a father, like it's a game changer, man. Priorities change, you know, like I'm not number one anymore.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like,
Perspective is totally different.
So like for me, like now that he, you know, when he was born, it's like, I got to train around him essentially. And like because I don't want to put this all on my wife. Like, you know, he's much as my son as he is hers. I was like, you know what? Like, I wake up early. You know, I wake up at 4:30. Yeah. I'm on the bike at 5. You know, I ride, and then he wakes up at 7. So it's like I get my training and done on the trainer. And like Zwift for me has been a huge game changer. Like I can't get out. You know, like I go out in the group rides on the weekends sometimes, which is awesome. But like for me, I can get so much done on Zwift doing a race or even like structured training, something like that. Versus like having to like kit up, put a light on my bike, fill up my bottles.
Takes a lot longer.
And if I flat, like I'm going to be in some trouble. You know what I mean? But yeah, I do a lot on Zwift. I love Zwift. I think getting a smart trainer has been a game changer for me as well. I had a wheel on, which was just like, I didn't realize how monotonous it was. You know, you change your gear. That's how you increase your resistance. But with the smart trainer on Zwift, like, you know, the gradient changes, you can feel it. I will definitely say it's not for everybody. Sure. I know that you're not a Zwift guy.
I don't. So I don't have a smart trainer. I think if I would like to be like, I'll never cave, but I think that's like silly. You know, I would like for this year to be like all outside miles.
Yes.
But you know, I imagine that I would get a smart trainer, and I love the idea of like the efficiency in terms of time.
Yes.
Right. Because like I'll wake up in like my work schedule is a little bit more sporadic than an average work schedule. Yeah. But on days that I do work, if I want to ride, I wake up at 4 and ride outside. Which is nice because there are no cars, but also like it's dark and in the winter it's cold. So like, yeah, you're thinking about what you're wearing, and like you said, if you get a flat, you're out there. You know, what am I going to do? Call my wife at 4:45? Like, hey, I double flatted. Can you get out of bed and come pick me up? You know, like that's embarrassing. And I'm sure she would, but it would be like, come on, you know. So like having a smart trainer like that. Yeah, I have a wheel on, and so that's really my like. And I've also sort of like have that mentality of like, I don't like Zwift.
There's definitely people that are like that. I think. I initially was not really into Zwift too. So I started Zwifting like when the beta of the game came out.
Oh, cool.
And I had a wheel on trainer, and like for me it was like I was doing it and like, you know, but I was still not like super into like the actual video game aspect of it or like the racing. I was never really into it because I was like, you know, triathlon training. I wasn't bike racing, so like the variability and like surging and things like that, I was like, this sucks. Yeah. But then like. There's been such a shift, and I think COVID and the pandemic really relied or heavily on what that is like now for like esports and like Zwift and cycling indoors. There's guys that only ride indoors. That I ride like I'm on an esports team with, cool. And like they only ride on Zwift. They don't ride outside at all. Right. But they take it's very serious, you know, and like you can get very serious about Zwift, about some of the races, and they have, you know, verification that, you know, you height and weight videos, and like you have to calibrate your trainer and record it and do all these things. Right. You know, you use your power meter and your trainer, and you compare the two to make sure they're like reading similar, like a lot of things to go into like authenticate people's like actual performance and things like that. Because I think that Zwift gets a bad rap in terms of like, oh, there's a guy on the group ride who's doing like, you know, 400 watts on Zwift, and like he gets dropped 10 minutes into a group ride.
When we're outside.
You know? Yeah, exactly.
Right. There is some Zwift doping, right?
Oh, for sure.
There was recently a little bit of did you know about this? Like there was I don't know if it was like the esports world championship or something, and someone got like knocked for inputting the wrong weight essentially.
Yes. So that's like the most So I think there's like someone was like, there's 3 camps of people that cheat on Zwift. Ones that do it like knowingly, like I'm going to put in that I weigh like 140 pounds,
right?
You know, like I'm
so that your watts
to
kilogram is
through the roof,
right.
yeah. And you're you know, I like weigh 170 pounds, so like I'm like 77 kilos,
yeah.
So if I put my weight as like 60,
right,
like I have a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Then there's people that I think that are unknowingly doing it, that they're like, oh, I think I'm 170 or 150 or whatever, and they just do it, but they're actually like 10 pounds more, and like they no harm, no foul. Like they really don't, you know, they don't take it too serious. They train,
right.
And I think that there's also a line too where people are using like a power meter that they know like
is not calibrated
correctly.
Gotcha.
And they're like, no, I'm using a power meter, but it's reading like 40. You're like, dude, you can't do like Chris Froome numbers for like an hour. You know, like you can't do that. Like I wish you could, man.
Yeah, right.
But you're like 55 years old in your basement. Like you're not doing that, you know?
Right.
But just, getting back, like, so Zwift for me has been a game changer just in terms of training. And then also like there is like a sense of camaraderie as well, being like on a team. We do like weekly races together as well, which is really fun.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, it's great for just training, especially if you're time crunched, like an hour and a half, like go nuke yourself on Zwift, you know?
Yeah. And so how do like the races work? Are they off? They happen often and you can, you know, you just like start at the same time as everyone else essentially?
Yeah. So, I mean, you could literally go on Zwift like at any time during the day.
And there's
a race. Yeah. There's races that are known like to be more legit, where you get like legit people that are legit, that have like verified data and things like that.
Yeah.
But then what was launched last year, like right when the pandemic was like peaking, was the Zwift Race League. So it was put on like by Zwift, and they work with like partner, like WTRL is like a race league as well. So they partner with them. And essentially like you get like a team of 6 guys, and usually like a Zwift race is like you win Zwift race, you move on, like nobody cares, doesn't matter. But they created these seasons, and it's their points races, and they're team based. So it's like finishing, yes, you get points for finishing and winning, let's say. Yeah. But they're also like intermediate sprints, KOM points. So there's more team tactics involved, where it's like everybody on the team has like a role for what they're doing during the race. So it's not just about finish position, which makes it a lot more fun, because like for me, like during some of the races, the climbing ones, like I'm not going to climb with some of these guys that are 130 pounds, you know? So like I go for the sprints and stuff like that. It makes it a little bit more fun, contribute to the team. And it's also, like I said, it's good training. It's replicable, you know, indoors and outdoors, using some of the same like energy systems and things like that. Yeah. So
I mean, it works for you.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I also, people are always like, oh yeah, Zwift makes you so strong. Like but I'm like also say like, I have like 5-6 years of like 20-25 hour training weeks in my body, where like, you know, it doesn't take me a lot to like get fit again quickly or anything like that, just because I have that base, you know? Yeah. And that's what endurance sports is, man. It's consistency over time.
Sure. Now that you're not doing triathlons and stuff, do you track like how many hours you're trying to ride a week?
Yeah. So I'm definitely I'm more of a time-based person.
Over distance.
Just because distance, I mean, I ride on Zwift probably 5 days a week, and if I can get outside for another 1 or 2, you know, and like on Zwift, speed is like not, you know, I'm not going 26 riding 200 watts like I am outside, you know, right. So I'm purely time. I track my training, you know, via time, but then also I use Training Peaks, just to track my like the TSS and CTL and things like that. Yeah. But that was just more of a carryover from like triathlon, as I've always been into like the data and the numbers and things like that. Yeah. But yeah, time based is definitely my thing. And like, as you know too, like you can ride 60 miles along the coast, or you can go into Western Rhode Island and ride 60 miles, and you're going to get like 6,000 feet of elevation.
Absolutely.
You know, a lot different.
Right. A lot different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the ride that we did today, I feel like it was hilly in the first half, like in the big group ride, because we did some miles beforehand.
Yes.
But like, and then on the way back, it was flat, and there was a little bit of a tailwind. Yeah. So it was a much different type of effort. Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
Yeah. I prefer riding into like Western Rhode Island. And I would choose that over like Rehoboth, Attleboro, or even like along Post Road or whatever. Like I love it. It's for fun, but like I love the short punchy stuff in Western Rhode Island that are climbs are like quarter mile, half mile long, up and down, just so fun, you know, going on windy roads, narrow roads, so fun.
And if you go up, you get to come down too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like being a bigger, quote unquote, bigger guy, like going down is a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
Speed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you have any like short-term goals like for this specific season, whether it be like, you know, do well in a specific race or just a certain amount of time over the year? Or is there anything that you're looking at, like, or is that just like not sort of the way that you look at things?
Yeah,
you know?
no, I would say for me, I've really changed my perspective in terms of how I set goals. Like I used to be really outcome focused. Like I want to finish in this place at this race, or I want to get this time at this race, whatever it is. But I would say since I've switched to cycling only, it's so new to me. Just like the racing aspect is so new. Group riding is so new. Like I've become more like process goal oriented, which is like, you know, when I started doing group rides, my goal, don't get dropped. You know, like it wasn't like finish, you know, whatever, like don't get dropped. Like, cause I had no idea what I was doing. I was so nervous the first time I did a group ride. I was like,
riding with other people can be nerve-wracking because especially if you don't know who you're riding with, you don't know what their riding styles are. You really got to be aware of
and people don't know you. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're not going to trust you. I remember the first couple of group rides I did. Like it was up with the group in Providence, and like no one ever really talked to me. And it was just fine at the time because I was like, whatever. And like, I also didn't want to be the guy that would like come in and like make someone crash or like, so I was just like hanging out in the middle. And like, just trying to pick up on like cues of like when people were calling things out and like how that was all new to me. Like I had never done any of that before. But yeah, it turned into something fun. But back to your question is, I would say for me, like if I can train like during the summer 15 hours a week, like that would be like a huge goal for me, just to, you know, consistency over time for me, like 15 hours a week. And a lot of that hopefully like in the morning, just because it's easier for me. But then in terms of races and things like that, like I honestly like just want to continue to learn and like get experience racing. For me, it's really, it's so new. It's really exciting for me still. And like, I feel like every time I've raced so far, I learn a little bit something new about like how the pack works or like how to position myself. And like, it's not just like you could be the strongest guy out there, but like, it doesn't matter if you're if coming down to a group sprint or something like that. If you have bad positioning, it doesn't matter like how strong you are. So it's just like, I just want to learn. But I also just want to continue to have fun. I don't want this to turn into triathlon for me where I like burn myself out. And like obsessed over like training and arranging your life around training and things like that, you know? And it's just, for me, it's really, I just want to keep it fun and like, form good relationships with people as well. I think that I've really met a lot of new people over the last year because of cycling, which has been great because triathlon is such an individual sport.
Interesting.
Did all my training solo. Everything was alone. I mean, I knew people from triathlon had friends, but like group riding and like being on a, you know, being part of these clubs and cycling clubs, like your club, I meet all these cool people from all over and like everybody's like pretty cool, you know, so it's nice to be able to have like similar interests to talk about cycling and things like that.
And it's like, I think this can happen to anyone where like something that seems like an innocent enough hobby that you get too into. And like you said, you burn yourself out on it and it becomes not fun. Like whether it's doing podcasts or like riding your bike, it can just become more of a draining thing than a rewarding fun thing. So it's good to like keep that in perspective. At least that's how I look at it, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like life in moderation, right? But like it's so true with this. Like I would love nothing more than like to wake up and win the lottery and like be able to ride my bike for like 4 or 5 hours a day. Like, you know, and like live the life of like a professional cyclist. But part of me that really likes this is like trying to like, all right, I'm going to ride for like an hour this morning before my son wakes up and like, that's it. And then it's like, I got to focus on him and my wife.
But here's the rest of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
There's other things that are going on.
Exactly. And that's one of the nice things about, I guess, having other things going on, but then like having cycling is like your hobby and you're really into it and it's passionate, but you don't want to like, if you miss a day, you know, it's not the end of the world. Like it's okay. So
you do seem to, do you ride 7 days a week?
I do 6. Mondays are off usually for me completely. Off the bike completely, usually don't do anything, just complete rest day. Something that I learned, I think, from triathlon is like managing over like years, managing your fatigue. Especially when you're cycling, single sport, like it's different with triathlon where you're like, you could swim, bike or run. You're always doing like cross training essentially at a certain point, but like cycling, such a repetitive motion. You spend so much time in one fixed position, you know, whether it be inside or outside, that I found that like having a day completely off really helps me manage my like fatigue over an annual basis.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't necessarily think about like, I mean, I do think it's becoming more and more to the forefront, but like, the recovery aspect of it, that it's not just like go as hard as you can, as long as you can, but something that actually you said to me was, make the hard days hard, but the easy days easy.
Yeah.
And that's something that you said to me that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
That it was like, you can just go out and like have an easy day.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that you're any less strong than you were the day before.
No.
And that's one of the negative things I think about like Strava, right? It's like someone looks at a ride where you average a certain, like, you're fast, and they're like, hell yeah, you're fast. And then you're slow, and they're like, oh, John's getting slow.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, I just like didn't really want to hammer today, you know, or for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I like Strava a lot, but I also think there's like a lot of negativity that's associated with it, because you end up comparing yourself to others that might be on a totally different playing field than you, or just like, it's not racing, because it's not a level playing field.
And it's not apples and oranges either. I think now where we're at with Strava is like, you need phenomenal weather and great wind to take most of these segments down, or just a huge group ride, or like you know, 5 or 6 committed guys going out there and hammering for like one person to take this KOM.
Right.
It's like, I totally agree with you. I like Strava because I like the social aspect of like, you know, seeing other people's rides, encouraging them to ride, whatever. And like, you know, if you're doing a group ride, like everybody's on there together. I like that. I think that I get KOMs and things like that are cool. To me, like the ones that really mean something are more like hill climbs, because I think while you still need good weather, it's more of like a show of like someone's actual like effort up that, and like actual performance.
A tailwind isn't pushing you up a hill as much as it might be helping you on a flat.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But like, it is, you know, if that's what motivates you, like that's totally cool, and that's up to you. You know, if you are motivated by guys that I know that only ride on Zwift, like that's what you want to do. Like that's cool too. I think that there's probably a happy medium. I think that, you know, like today on our group ride, like seeing Christian roll off the front, because he's like, yeah, we're close to a KOM, I'm gonna go for it, you know. And Christian's like the KOM man, you know, like dude
King
goes
KOM
out.
is I think what he wants us to call him. I think he specifically said he's cool with that.
Drives his minivan out to places where there's a segment, 30-mile-an-hour winds, he's going for it,
and that works for him,
and that's what he likes to do. Like that's cool.
That makes him feel good, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's no harm in that.
I mean, I'm not gonna lose sleep over him taking one of my KOMs.
No, I might unsubscribe from those emails. Because I hate getting that email. So and so stole your KOM.
And you're like, wait a second, how?
Right. But that's what motivates a certain person. And I think anything that motivates you to better yourself, like riding your bike, helps your fitness. You know, you're going to see some cool things. Then like, more power to you.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the best things about cycling in general, is like the places that it can take you. That's why. So my wife bought me a GoPro over the summer, because I was like, I cycle in some great, like I saw an owl one time fly by, and she's never seen like an owl in, like, we've seen them at, like, you know, at zoos and stuff like that, but never like in the out. And I'm like, I see so much cool stuff that you don't see, because you're not like, she's not out riding with me. And so now she gave me a GoPro, so I'm like at the ready to take all these photos and stuff. But like, that's one of the things that I love, is like going out into like Western Rhode Island or Massachusetts, along, you know, the ocean, wherever, like you're so cool, you know, it's like such a peaceful thing, but then also like traveling to places, like getting to know like the town that you're in, or like if you're up in like Vermont, going up the mountains, like just absolutely love doing it, being outside. It's a
totally different perspective than driving your car.
Oh yeah.
And as someone that grew up in Rhode Island, I like Rhode Island. Obviously, it's the smallest state. You can look at it on a map and sort of like know where everything is. But I never went to certain places. And now that I ride my bike, I feel like I know roads a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, where certain things are, and you see things at a slower speed. I've seen, like, bald eagles this year. You know, like, just on the bike. And have explored parts of the state that maybe I've just ridden through on the highway before, you know? But instead, you're riding your bike, and, like, the little... Like you mentioned Vermont, like what I like about riding in places that are a little bit more rural is like finding these like general stores in the middle of nowhere, right? And there are these people that like live in these small towns, and they're like interesting people, and you can, you know, it's just like a different slice of life. And that's really like a big thing that I like with riding my bike, is like seeing things like from a different perspective. I think a perspective that a lot of people don't see.
100% agree. I will say there's times where I've gone out for a ride, just like in Rhode Island or whatever, like over into Scituate, and I'm like, later in the day, I'm like, hey, let's get in the car and go for a drive. I'm going to take you out to where I rode my bike today, and like show my wife, like, you know, we go over the Scituate Bridge. It's really, you know, it's cool out there. And like, I'm like, oh yeah, I ride my bike on this road all the time. Like I tell her, and she's like, all right. Like,
my wife does the Yeah, but every once in a while, like my wife's a school teacher, and this morning she was like, "Do you know of any places like where there's like public parking and then we can go for like a little quick hike?" And I was like, immediately I knew exactly. I was like, "Yes, there's this place in Arcadia where you can park here." And so yeah, as silly as it might be to like. No, oh hey, I ride my bike here. I'm a local legend on this like area, you know, or whatever.
I've done that before where I'm like, hey, I have the camo, I'm up this hill.
Yeah, right.
Like, no big deal, but
right. And like to me, it's important, but to most like, other people, whatever. Yeah,
that's funny.
So like, I'd like to talk about like gear or kit real quick. Is there anything that like, you know, whether it be your bike or a specific thing that you wear, or is there something like in your kit that you think is like your most important? And I'm not talking like a helmet because it saves your life.
Yeah.
But is there something that like you wouldn't ride without?
Yeah. Oh, power meter.
Power meter.
Hands down. It's just like, so it's funny. Like I say power meter, but I honestly, I don't look at my power at all during a ride. Oh, ever. Okay. I only look at it after.
Yeah.
But it's something that like, if the battery dies or something like that, I'm like, what was the point of riding?
You're upset about it.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. But like, I love, and I think this goes back into like the triathlon days where you're like so focused on power and like holding a certain power and like training. Now I like ride completely off of feel, but like I love when I'm riding and I'm like telling myself like I'm pedaling at a certain cadence and I'm like, I think I'm doing this for watts or whatever. And I can go back to it after and look and I'm like, I was pretty close. Or like, you know, like a power meter is great, I think, for like training, but like during a race you're not going to be like, oh, we're going up too hard up this hill, my power is too high, I'm not gonna, you know what I mean, you're not going to govern yourself. But I will say the power meter for me has just been like, I just love the data, you know. I love looking at it. I love looking at other people's power data. If you look at some of these world tour guys, mind-blowing that they can do.
Absolutely.
Like they're 30-40 minute power, I can do like 5 minutes, you know. I'm just like in my head I'm trying to like process like what that feels like and like how they can do it. It's just absolutely mind-blowing.
So you have you ride a gravel bike as well. We talked about that. We rode our road bikes today.
Yes.
I know you have a crank based.
On both I do. So I have a Power 2 Max on my road bike. Which has been amazing. It's dependable. Never had issues with it. It was actually the first power meter I ever had, and I've just continued to get them.
Oh, cool.
And then I had I bought a road bike back in 2016, like just like an entry level. It was like $900. I bought a Power Tap hub. It was like a used one, and like the wheel's not true. It's like totally messed up. But it was like accurate enough that I would use that for a while. I liked that. And then I have on my gravel bike, I have it's a IJAH, which is like a Chinese company. It's a crank based, it's spider based power meter as well. And I like check. So I have a smart trainer. So if I'm going on Zwift on the smart trainer, I also run my bike computer to pair up with my power meter.
Oh, gotcha.
And I can tell how close they are, and they're all relative. So I know it's like dependable.
Right.
But yeah, power to me is just like, if power meters didn't exist, I don't know if I'd be into riding.
Interesting.
I love it. I just love the power
You like
data.
the numbers.
I do. Heart rate, power data, everything that goes along with it. And just like, like, I don't know if you use Training Peaks at all, or if you're familiar with
I'm familiar with it, but I don't use it.
So like you can get into the weeds with some of the software that they have, and like you can track your fitness and your fatigue and all these things. And like just like the numbers has been such like an attractive thing that I've always been like fascinated with and really interested with. And like there is some like truth into like, oh, okay, my fitness is going up, but my fatigue is also going up.
Right.
You take your day off, your fitness goes down a little bit, but fatigue drops significantly.
Right.
You ride again, and like your power feels great, and you can look at the numbers, your heart rate's lower. It's just like, you get down these rabbit holes.
So you recommend Training Peaks? Yeah,
I like Training Peaks. I think whatever you use, and I know that Strava I think has like stuff like the scores that you can get, like training load and things like that.
Yeah, right.
But for Training Peaks, it's something that I've used, and I have like 6 years of data in Training Peaks that like tracks like my heart rate. Like, so I can go back to like 5 years ago and be like, all right, you held this power for however long, your heart rate was this. And like compare it to what I'm doing now. It's like a single sport. But yeah, I mean, I just love to be able to track all that stuff. And I will say too, like if I'm thinking about racing this year, like gravel or road, and like some of the key events that I have, and like how you can manage your fatigue and like how you can manage your fitness throughout the year. Like you don't want to like have an insane amount of fitness in March, and then like September rolls around for Green Mountain Stage Race, and I'm like so like burnt out or like tired. So it's good for just being able to be like, all right, I'm going I'm ramping up too much right now, and being able to track it like that.
Interesting. You said you don't track power while you're riding. Do you track your heart rate ever? It's also on field.
It's on there. I don't look at it though until after. I'm completely off of field. The only screen I have up when I ride is just the map.
The map.
Yeah.
And that's showing you your speed?
Nope.
Or your average speed?
Nothing.
Just the map.
I have just the map. I have no metrics at all.
I love to hear that.
I know. So that's when we did Jamestown.
Yeah.
I we were off the front. I was off the front, and I was going completely off a field the whole time.
Yeah.
And then I was like going, and I was like, all right, we're going through this town, right? You know when you go through not the town, but like past the gas station, coming to farms. I'm like, I'm gonna look at my bike computer to see how much longer I got to do this for.
Yeah.
It's all zeros because I didn't start my bike computer.
Oh my!
And I was like, fuck. I was like, of course. And I was like, God, I was like, this sucks. I was like, I'm gonna win, but I was like, it doesn't even matter to me. Like it doesn't. So I have like the last 8 minutes of the race.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like that proves that like I don't look at it. Wasn't looking at anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
So in hindsight, I wish I was because I would have known. I forgot to hit start.
Yeah. Because you were just following the car or the arrows on the road or whatever.
I was following the arrows or I was following the car. Right. And I knew the course. It was out and back. You know.
Right.
We rode it the week before.
Yeah.
But then also, like I knew that I know like. I've been doing this for a while, so like I know like how hard I can go and like sustain it.
Yeah.
And like I know you like going down, you can recover. Going up the hills, you got to go a little bit harder.
Yeah.
But then you also like when I got to the point where I was like, God, how much longer do I got to do this? You know?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna look, and it was all zeros. I was like,
fuck.
In my head, I was like, I should just stop, and like and I was like, no, I was like, I'll just get started. So I had like 8 minutes of Jamestown on there, which is kind of a bummer, you know. But I would have liked to have seen some of the power data. But yeah,
I'm sure it was great.
It was. It was. Who knows? We'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know. Yeah. I sort of talked about pro cycling earlier. We talked about like wearing a leader's jersey in the tour. Do you follow pro cycling?
Yeah, I would say 2 years ago is when I really started to get into it.
Yeah. And that, do you think, like, did that coincide with you, like, being more into riding your bike as opposed to, like, so it wasn't in your triathlon days?
Yeah.
I didn't right around the transition time.
Yeah, like, I knew about, like, the tour, and I would watch some stages and things like that.
Right.
But I was really into watching triathlon and following that, like, the professional world of that sport.
Yeah.
And then once I got fully into cycling, so I've always watched, like, cycling training, like YouTube accounts like Vegan Cyclist and things like that, like where he would like show his life but also like what he was training for and things like that. Dylan Johnson, I love Dylan Johnson, big fan of. And like I love like the whole like physiological aspect of cycling and like training and how you periodize your year and things like that. And then I started watching like GCN, and I was like watching some, like they had like pros training, and I was like, that's pretty sick. And then I would watch the recaps of some of the races. And then like 2 years ago, and this was like peak pandemic, there was no racing. And then right when it came back, I was just like so jacked up to like watch pro. I was like, I'm getting down like GCN Plus. I had like NBC Gold, whatever it was. Like I was like, I'm watching all this stuff. I just really wanted to learn how to, because like you can learn a lot, I think, from watching those races.
I think so too.
And I got into it, and like I learnned a lot of the the good guys, like Peter Sagan and all these people that I was like, damn, these guys are crazy. But then I would also follow just like random like amateur cyclists as well on YouTube, like in their racing and things like that. And I was like, this is crazy, like NorCal. Jeff from NorCal Cycling. I don't know if you've watched any of his videos, but he does like recaps of his crits and things like that, and you learn a lot. Cool. But pro cycling, I mean, I watch every day of the week, and now that I work from home a few days a week, and I go into the off. But the few days that I'm at home now, I can watch like stage races in the mornings. It's like prime time on at like 9 a.m.
It's great. Yeah,
so it's awesome.
Yeah, waking up in Milan San Remo was just like on at 7 a.m.
I know, I love that.
It was like 300 kilometers, like 200 miles. And
crazy.
Just like it's funny because like I don't think everyone that rides watches cycling
for sure.
And I think it's sort of and I'm also a fan of baseball, which is also like a boring sport to watch.
Yeah.
I think cycling can come across as boring.
Sure.
Because it's like long.
It is.
Sometimes it doesn't get exciting till the end.
Yeah.
I love to just like hear the commentators talk.
Me too.
Just look at the gear. They don't necessarily, the commentators don't focus on gear as much as they just focus on like talking about team tactics and they'll also give you like nice little fun facts about like the old church that they're riding by, which is great. You know, they have like great aerial shots. I think like the production value in them is like really nice, and you get to hear from ex-racers. Like Sean Kelly does a lot of the stuff for GCN, and like he was, he won the tour, and he was the Irish national champion, and just like hearing those perspectives for me helps me think about cycling in that way.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
know, and like I'm never gonna go pro. my early 30s. Like, there's no way in hell.
Yeah, I hear you.
But it's like fun.
Yeah,
you know, it's like really fun to watch, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I love. I've got, like I said, I got really into it, and I just love. You know, they talk about, so you know, Lantern Rouge, the cycling. So
yeah, great podcast.
Does a phenomenal job recapping the stages. Does like, you know, like the pre-race stuff for like Milan San Remo, and it gives you like an idea. Like if you watch his like pre-race for Milan San Remo, you know, going in like what other teams are thinking, because he does such a good job, like, you know, outlining like what certain teams are going to do, who they're working for, when they're going to attack, you know. And so like when they were going up the Poggio yesterday, and you saw like Tade, however you say his name, attacking and like out following Van der Poel's in the race. Like, it's just like so sick. You're like, so awesome to watch these guys. And like, I think a lot of times too, people don't understand like how phenomenal of athletes these elite level cyclists really are, and like how they're 180 miles into this race, and they are like attacking. You
and
know,
now
like
they're going to turn it up
700 watts for like a minute, like, and you're like, what? Like, I can go do that and then I'm done for like the rest of the day. But they're doing it like 6 hours into a race. Yeah, absolutely mind blowing. It's just awesome to watch them, and I love watching the pros. I think they're just phenomenal athletes.
Yeah, like Milan San Remo specifically, like the last 30 or 40 kilometers, it was very clear that like UAE was on the front and Jumbo was on the front, right? They're on the front. There's three for each team. They're sort of like working together a little bit, but you could tell like UAE was fighting for Pog. Yeah. And Jumbo was either fighting for Wout or Primoz, probably Primoz, even though I'm a huge Wout fan. And then all of a sudden, Mohoric from Merida, Bahrain. Not comes out of nowhere, because I think a lot of people might have had him as a pick. Sure. But there was so much cat and mouse going on between UAE and Jumbo.
He attacked on the descent.
And then he attacked on that descent and just like risked it all.
Crazy.
And everyone's talking about the dropper post that he used, which is a lot of fun, like to think about, you know, like he lowered his center of gravity and crushed it on that descent. And just the tactics that go into that. Your tactics are based on the tactics of the other team, right? So even like the best plan might just like go to waste because a team is doing something that you didn't expect them to do. There's so much going on.
I love watching it, and I think the one-day races too are like, I think it's obviously a lot different than like the tour or like another long stage race, because like this one-day race, like they're going all in on this. The best guys are going all in on it versus like, you know, a tour where like, you know, Primoz is going to like, you got to stay with the front group. You got to finish well. All right. Your lowest time, you win. But like these one-day races, man, they are so fun. Yeah. Because like they want to win. They have to win. That day. And like some of the, I'm thinking back to like last year, when you like see like Van der Poel attack, what was that? Strada Bianche. Oh my God. Like just like some of these insane moments that you watch. Yeah. Wild. It's crazy.
And like Bernal on one of those Giro stages last year where all of a sudden he like flicked it into his big ring and just like went off.
Crazy.
Yeah. And that's like you said, it is like, they're so elite. Yeah. They're 1 in a million, even more like, you know, and you as a fan / hobbyist, right? Like, you know, we race a little bit, but we're not like, you see them and you're like, oh, okay, wow. Like,
dude, like there's like another level of athleticism.
And of course, you know, they're like we mentioned before, that's their job. Yeah. You know, they have nutritionists, they have director sportifs that are like talking in their ear, they're getting massages, they're recovering. Like they finish a race and someone gives them their recovery drink and their seltzer and, you know, all that stuff. So it is like very different. But like, I don't know. Obviously, I think there are some, you know, there's some like negativity to that. I don't like, some of the sponsors aren't like the best sponsors, and
I mean, if you look like Bahrain,
exactly, I mean, or UAE, which isn't like the best, you know, nation. But it is like really fun to like hear them talk, and I think the more like ex-pros that talk about it is even more interesting. Sure. Like Bradley Wiggins on the back
on the motorbike.
Wow, what a guy. He's just like he's so smooth, so effortless in the way that he talks. He's hanging off the back of the motorbike, explaining things so well. Yeah. You know? And it's just like a lot of fun to watch. So do you have like a race that you're really excited about watching this year, or like a team, or like anything like that? Or do you just sort of watch it and enjoy it?
No, I mean, I love that literally it's like every week you have something to look forward to with these. I love the spring classics are like honestly some of the best. But then like just the grand tours are awesome as well. I think in terms of like we didn't really talk about it, but in terms of like the professionals that I really like
Yes.
root for or follow.
Yeah.
I'm a Sagan
Me
fanboy,
too.
you know,
Yes,
through
absolutely.
and through.
Yep.
Do I actually think he's like trying this year or
Yeah, I
like what's
don't know.
happening? I don't know either. But like every race, I'm just like, deep down, there's something about me that just like pulls for him and like loves him.
Even Milan San Remo or whatever happened the week before, I don't remember which race it was. I was like texting someone. I was like, Sagan, he might.
Yeah.
But he's still like, the positioning was a little bit off.
Yes,
and, yeah. And he had a mechanical during Milan San Remo and he didn't quite get back to the group.
Yep.
But yeah, I just like, he just seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All his highlight videos are like a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
The way that he can control a bike, he hops over things.
Goes up like 20 flights of stairs on his bike.
Absolutely.
Like doing
just like a lot of fun. And when like he's on a different team now, Total Energy.
Yep.
But when he was with Bora, even before, like just like the team dynamics between him and Daniel Oss, who's like his domestique and pulls him around everywhere. They just like seem to have a lot of fun. Yeah, I love Sagan. I have his book.
Oh, do you? Okay, nice. Yeah.
It's just like he is entertaining. I think he makes the sport entertaining.
Agreed.
Same thing with like Julien Alaphilippe.
Yes, agreed.
Very entertaining.
Yep.
You know, you'll see him like bumping like techno like in the team car afterwards, you know? And it gives you just like that more
like relatable,
right? I think a lot of the times it's something that we've said before on the podcast that like cycling seems almost alien to people that don't cycle.
Sure.
You know, you put on these big goofy helmets, you put on some sunglasses, you attach yourself to a bike, and it seems not human to someone that might just be driving by you on a car.
Yep.
And some people have the attitude of like cyclists shouldn't be on the road, and you might not change their mind, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think like just having that connection, that like human connection, that like, hey, I'm just out here like trying to enjoy myself. I know I might look a little bit funny because my helmet's big and you can't see my eyes through these sunglasses and I'm wearing tight clothes, but like, you know, that doesn't make me any better or any worse than you, you know? So like, getting to see like Sagan like have fun or Alaphilippe have fun, you know, is like a lot of fun. Yeah. I love pro cycling. I probably watch it more than I watch a lot of basketball these days, but I also watch a lot of pro cycling. And it's on at a convenient time.
Yes, very convenient. Yeah, it's awesome. For me, it's like I'm on the trainer at 6 in the morning, and the race just started. For me, it's easy. I will say that what got me into watching pro cycling was probably 2 years ago when Education First. At the time, they were really starting to break out and do like these alternative like race schedules almost with like Lachlan Morton doing like the gravel stuff and like he did the one in the UK that was just like it was like 500 kilometers of just like backcountry and like with, you know, I don't know where it was, and like they're an American based kind of team, so it was like more. It was like cool to be able to relate to like these Americans who were like pro cyclists, and doing some of these cool things. Like Lachlan Morton's like Australian, but like a lot of the guys that were on that team,
like Lawson Craddock and Taylor.
Exactly,
Finney
they're like on different teams. Or like Taylor retired, but like they're on different teams now. Like Joe Dombrowski's on UAE. Like Michael Woods is on Israel. Like I still like root for them because they were part of that original crew. And I'm just like for me, I just like relate to that like OG EF.
And not to mention they have like some of the best kits. They ride those great Cannondales. Yeah, their kits are always fun. I like EF a lot.
Me too.
Like what Lachlan does is it seems to be like the more fun side. He's still very competitive and like obviously very strong. But like the alt tour that he did last year. Where he's like, I'm gonna ride the original tour route. But I'm not gonna like drive in between the stages like they do. I'm just gonna
doing the
ride my
transfers
bike.
too.
He's doing all the transfers, and he ended up finishing before the group. He had some, but it was just like a lot of fun to follow along. And it seems more human, you know, because he talks about the struggles. You know, I think a lot of the times, especially like in the days of social media, it's like everyone shares just the positive things in their lives, you know? Like, oh, I got these new shoes, or like, I got this new bike, but no one's like, oh, I'm having like a bummer of a day.
Or like, or I'm injured or something like that. Like he's like wearing sandals because he's like, my knee's bothering me.
My knee's bothering me.
When I saw that, I was like, thank God. I was like, I thought I was the only one that ever got like overuse injuries and stuff. I was like, because I never hear anybody else complain about that kind of stuff. And like you see,
it's very rare. Everyone like holds their cards very close to their chest when it comes to like the issues that they have. They're very quick to say like when they're doing well, for sure, but a lot more reserved. But like that's part of being human, right? Is like you're gonna have ups and downs, and like hopefully the downs aren't that low, but it's gonna happen. And it just it makes it more relatable. Right?
Definitely. That's why it was nice to see him like you know, he's like, God, I feel like shit today.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like drinking like Coke and eating a ton. He's like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. Or like I said, he's wearing the sandals because his knees hurt.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, this guy is human, you know, but he's doing crazy shit. But like,
absolutely crazy shit.
You know, it's wild because you always see the pros and they're like, you know, a lot of times like they're never injured throughout the season, and then they do get an injury, and you're like, oh wow, like you know, wow, they do actually get overuse injuries just like us, like average people. You know, it's wild.
Yeah. Okay, just one last thing I'd like to talk about before we get out of here. I'd like to know if you have like any sort of like go-to pro tip. And I don't want to like take anything away from you, but another thing that you said to me sort of recently was to like, when you're pedaling, focus on like using your glutes.
Oh yeah, that's been a game change. I was thinking about this because that was one. So I have two.
Okay, great.
And again, pro tip, again, very new to cycling.
Oh, right. We're not like, pros.
Yeah, not pros.
Pro tip
here.
in the most amateur way possible.
Yes, the most amateur way.
Right.
I'm probably the strongest.
And this might not work for anyone else.
Yeah.
But when you said that glute thing to me, it's something that I've been consistently thinking about.
Yeah.
Was like driving from my full leg up to my glute instead of like just focusing on hamstrings or quads or whatever, right? But like putting your full leg into it, which in turn like puts your full body into it.
So
right?
Exactly, and I think that's something that something that's like, you know, a common like thing that people think is like, oh, you got to have like really strong quads to be able to ride a bike. Yeah. But the quads really don't actually power your pedal stroke maybe 25%.
Yeah.
Or the glutes are contributing like 60%.
Yeah.
So I think I talked to you about this a while ago. I've been on the quest for the perfect bike fit for like 3 years.
Yes.
And there's a guy that I go and see up at Wheelworks in Belmont, Ed Sassler. So great. I've read a ton of reviews off of him.
Yeah.
You know, I've had a ton of bike fits in my, you know, in doing all this. I've had the Red Tool where they hook up, you know, the sensors and you can see the angles and all this stuff. I've gone to, you know, a ton of different people that have done this. And Ed, I went and saw just based off of purely reviews and like recommendations, things like that. And he doesn't use any of that. He's purely like, I want to see you pedal. Yeah. You know, and in his mind and how it works, like he can see like your range of motion and he does all these things. And like I've been in the same position for the last year now. But what Ed did too is he explained how to pedal a bike to me. He's like, he explained how to use certain muscles during a pedal stroke to be like the most efficient, but also the most powerful. Yeah. Because he was telling me that, I don't know, he like broke both of his legs or something like that. And I could be getting the story totally wrong. But he's like, when, you know, you learn to walk, right? And he's like, when you ride a bike, he's like, people try to transfer like how to walk onto a bike and it's totally different. Yeah. He's like, when I, you know, was injured or whatever happened to him, he's like, I wanted to teach myself how to ride a bike before I could relearn how to walk. And he figured out how to like use the most out of each of his muscle groups to do a pedal. So anyways, long story short.
Yeah, no, it's interesting.
He was telling me how to use my glutes to pedal a bike. Yeah. And it was really a game changer for me because I was like, oh, I'm going to mash and just use my quads. You know? Because you really only use your quads over like the top to get over the top of the pedal stroke. Sure. And a little bit, maybe 10 to 15% of the bottom. Yep. But the glutes you're using from the top of the pedal stroke all the way down through the bottom. Yeah. Because the glute is such a big muscle and there's so many, like so much power that's there that you really need to be putting your body into each pedal stroke. Right. And like that's really, for me, I would say if you can like get on a trainer or go up like a really like 2-3% hill, get into like where you're pedaling like 70 RPM and just let your body fall into each pedal stroke and just like neurologically think, use your brain to like tell your glutes to like pedal the bike. Right. And like once you do it a few times, it makes a lot of sense. And then like, you know, when we're like you're on the front in a group ride, just like get down and like use your glutes. Yeah. And it's just totally a game changer. It's been a game changer for me.
It was for me. When you said it to me, it was something that like, I mean, obviously you know that there's muscles there, but like I think a lot of people people mash all the time. People, it's all about like the downstroke. Yes. Yeah. But that might only be like 40% of the actual pedal stroke, right? So like, what about that other 60%? What other muscles are you activating? You know, and like people might say like, oh, I have huge calves, but like some people don't use their calves at hardly ever.
The calves really, the way he explained it to me is like they only are really used to assist
the flexibility
your leg over the pedal stroke. They actually like they're not contributing to power at all. Right. It's like it uses like a stabilizer almost. Sure. Know? Yeah. But the glutes, man, I'm telling you, if you can figure out, and there's good videos on YouTube too, but if you can figure out how to use your glutes to pedal, you'll be so much stronger. Seriously. And then second pro tip that I thought about was something that my coach told me back when I was doing triathlon. And I see this a lot of times on group rides. And I see it a lot of times even just like during some races too, is people stand up and get out of the saddle way too often.
Yeah. I'm a victim of that.
And like,
yeah, I do. I like, just like, I feel like a kid again or something.
Yeah. But like, so what my takeaway for that and my tip is like, only get up and stand out of the saddle if you absolutely have to, especially like during a race. It's like being out of the saddle is like the least efficient way to like pedal the bike, and like that, and then you're also up and you're like not aero or like the drag is crazy. But if you can remain seated as long as you can, that would be my other pro tip as well.
Interesting, because I think people do stand up a lot, especially on climbs.
Yes, exactly.
But they'll keep it in a harder gear and just stand up instead of shifting it to an easier gear and staying down.
Agreed. Yeah.
And so like positioning alone, like you said, like you're say you're in the drops and you're really low and you're nice and efficient. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you stand up, that's like you're like almost doubling the amount of your body that's in the wind and in the elements, right?
And like if you've ever had the feeling of when you're like going really hard up a hill, but your arms begin to tire too because you're swaying the bike back and forth.
Absolutely.
Like the energy that you're using to try to get up that hill, when you could like shift down on the small ring and like spin at like 80 RPM or whatever it is. If you stay seated, save so much more energy. So that's my other pro tip, I guess.
No, that's good to know.
I also stay in the big ring for everything though too, so I don't go into the small ring.
You don't? No. Yeah. Today, no small ring?
No. Never.
Yeah, I don't know if I went into
I don't
the small
think anything
ring today.
warranted the small ring.
No,
there's one hill that we went out for the group ride 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yep. When we went out into like Western.
Oh, yes.
There was one hill that was like hit 10%, and I was like going at like 60 RPM, and I was I should shift down. Yeah. And I was like, nope.
You're generally a lower RPM rider.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Some people spin a lot.
Yes.
Some people spin a little bit slower. Yeah. I think for a long time, people like you would watch videos or whatever, and they'd be like, you need to be between 85 and 90 RPM, and that's wrong.
I would say personal preference for sure. At the end of the day, like you see Chris Froome, right? He does like 110 RPM. Looks like a maniac.
Yeah, right.
But then there's guys that do like 75, and it's just I would say whatever works for you and whatever you're comfortable.
Whatever
doing.
you feel comfortable in is probably the right RPM.
Exactly.
Right?
Don't be like I try to mimic. Chris
I need to
Froome.
be doing 90.
Yeah.
I need to be doing 100.
Yeah,
right. Well, if 100 isn't comfortable and you're hurting yourself, then it's no good.
Yeah. Definitely.
Cool. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we get out of here?
No, it's just awesome. Thanks for having me, man.
No problem.
I really, really enjoy listening to the podcast, watching
thank you
your
so
videos.
much.
It's an honor to be on here.
Thanks. We'd love to have you back, like a more of a roundtable situation where we can, sort of bounce ideas off each other. And I look forward to trying to hang onto your wheel at Natchaug in a week.
Yeah, me too.
I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, dude. Looking forward to it.
All right, cool. Thank you very much, Jake.
All right, thanks, John.
All right, bye. Hey y'all, John here with a quick ad read to shout out our sponsors before the end of the episode. If you've seen our club kits, then you know who we're talking about. We've got Bomb Burritos out of Westerly, Rhode Island, A Guy and His Pie from Providence, Rhode Island, and PVD Donuts, also from Providence, Rhode Island. In addition to those three great food spots, you have Decaf Left Media producing this podcast and other podcasts like it, as well as Noon Hydration and Honey Stinger. Currently, a code going around for 25% off all waffles at honeystinger.com. That code is WaffleWeek25. That's WaffleWeek25. Use that code at checkout at honeystinger.com to receive 25% off all waffles through the month of March in 2022. Thanks for listening to the show, and see you on the next one.
Decaf left, regular right. Decaf left, regular right. It's very challenging work.